Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 24th day of April, 2019. Well, I've lost track as to how many times I've done this so far today. Yes, it's going to be one of those mornings. So I'm not even going to chat because I did that, and then, like 20 minutes later, I'm still chatting. It's like, oh crap, what am I doing? It wasn't that bad, but still, Well, we have a 6 energy today: higher self, balance, harmony, random acts of kindness, being aware of the greater aspect of self, understands that we're all one. And that's where, when you start getting into the 6 and the 8 and all of that, you're starting to recognize that you're not alone in the world, that you're part of something greater. And so hopefully, you respond positively to that. Let me get my magnifying glass ready here, just in case I need that. Well, anyhow, let's get started and see what our first card is for today. Well, I've been keeping track of what the readings have been this week because it seems like we're progressing, and maybe we are, or maybe this is just indicative of, pulling my head out of where, but I pulled the 8 of Swords. So we can all laugh now. That's me today. But here we have an 8, and again, we're talking spirit here. We see the castle in the distance. We see red sand that's blotchy. She's wearing it's not even a nice color of red. I don't wear red well. I'm not a red person. I don't know why, but I don't know, maybe because of the hair I can do pink, but I can't do red. My skin tone isn't right for it. So when I see this is just, will and intellect. And she's having to, the swords pointing downward is probably representing chaos, internal chaos. Thoughts are it's just too much. And what she's had to do here, she's bound and she's blindfolded. And basically she's getting in the way of herself. And so what in other words, she's bound by her own thoughts, by her own perceptions, perhaps. The focus is on ego because we're looking at the swords pointing downward. But it's a card of potential, isn't it? Because it's the potential for realization. Now, I wanted to look back again at Monday's. Well, actually, I don't have to. I wrote it down here. So Monday's reading was about letting go of illusion. It started out, I believe, with the 10 of Cups. Yes, the 10 of Cups, and then we pulled the 10 of Swords, the 5 of Pentacles, and the 9 of Swords. So we did 4, plus it was also a 22 day. So master number, it was the Cosmic Builder, the Master Builder. So what were we going to manifest? Well, that particular day, it was suggesting that we have not, that we've not been paying attention, that we've been buying into an illusion that just isn't there. I had one person on Twitter suggest that it was a great reading for Earth Day, for climate change, that we're living an illusion, that is going to actually end up harming us if we're not careful, if we don't wake up here. And so it was almost like Monday, was about waking up, to something new that we need to manifest. But then yesterday we started out with the 4 of Wands, which set the tone for balanced energy exchange with others. That for some reason, we've whatever our illusion is, okay. And again, I don't like to narrow this down too much. You could look at it in terms of the 2016 election and what we're dealing with now. You could look at it that way, or as in my Twitter friends said, relating it to climate change and Earth Day. whatever, maybe we're in a relationship that we've just not, we really haven't, we thought it was one way but we've really bought into a line. Maybe somebody that we're involved with is just really good at deceiving people. And we thought things were a certain way, but then we discovered that they weren't. And then after that, see, then we're going to start to think, well, maybe we need to move into a more balanced perspective with other people, and maybe not be quite so quick to jump in feet first. And now here we are today with the Eight of Swords, where we're really acknowledging that we're being bound by our perceptions. Either that, or there's just too much conflict that we're experiencing and we're not being able to move forward. So, but typically speaking, when we look at swords this way, this is about what's going on in our own mind, okay? Everything is manifested from our own thought processes. We manifest the world around us. And what that means is, even though we're participating in this collective illusion, how we see it is up to us. Okay, that's really what that means. It isn't that, we are all magicians and we're, I created this card because I wanted it to be there. No, this is all the agreement that we're living under, is this world that we live in. And so all I'm doing is just choosing my experiences, basically. And that's all any of us does. And it's not just the experience, but the perception of it. I mean, we can all experience the same thing. We have 10 people and 10 people could have a different impression about it, So again, that just reinforces the notion that we create the world that we see, but it's not so much the tangibleness of it, but it's the perception of it that we're creating at any given moment. And here in the Eight, she's not focused on spirit. She's not focused on the greater aspect of self. What she's focused on is her thoughts that are just binding her up. But let's do another card. Well, here we have the Page of Swords. And you're talking here again, we're, another intellect card, and an air sign, air element, not air sign, air element. But here we have the page. There. Pages can be, well, they depict a youthful person, but they can be students, they can be messengers, they're bringing a message, for example, maybe beginning something new. If we assigned a number to it, it would be an 11 number. So you're looking at a master number for illumination. So again, bringing a message. Sometimes it indicates, depending on the cards that it's with, it could be in the birth of a child or a pregnancy. But given that it's the Page of Swords, typically we interpret this as a message. There's movement involved in the card. But how it could relate to the Eight, we're going to draw another card though. But how this relates to the Eight is that if we're bound by our own, if we're bound by perception, by our own perception, maybe we're about to break through into some new thinking, new awareness, a new way of looking at things. Maybe something's going to come in that's going to clarify some things. Maybe we'll get some new information. Maybe we can't make sense out of anything. The Eight of Swords could mean that there's just so much going on that we just need to shut down. We need to turn our attention away from all of it so that we can get some peace and quiet so we can think and come to some kind of decision. And with the Page of Swords, maybe it's indicating that we're about to get a little more clarification so that we can make a decision. Maybe some clarity is about to enter into the picture. Because right now with the Eight, we're too focused on the chaos and we just can't make heads or tails out of anything. So we're trying to do that. Well, there goes a card. I've done this now, I think, every day this week where I've dropped a card. Oh, I have to tell you what it is, actually. Well, it's the Seven of Cups. So, you know, illusion, creativity. Depends on, again, how you want to look at that one. Really, perception really matters with that one, because a lot of the time, you know, you think it's delusional thinking and heads in the clouds, and you're not being very realistic. But I mean, how else do you ever? I mean, how else do you create anything? You don't put all cards on the table, so to speak. You know, if you don't think about all possibilities, no matter what it is. Some of them might not be realistic, but so what? There could be something about one of it that isn't particularly realistic, but maybe an aspect of it can contribute something to the rest of it. I don't know, you know. I don't like the negative connotation of the Seven of Cups that a lot of interpretations have. I just think of it as not fantasy, but creativity. So that's just me, though. But let's see what this next card has to say. Well, the Wheel of Fortune, the 10th card of the major arcana. So soul archetype, you're looking at the four elements surrounding the wheel. Looks like Mercury and a Aquarius. Is that what that is? I think so. Sometimes the glyphs on these cards are just a little too sketchy. I can't be sure. I'll have to double check that. Oh, and what did I do with it? Okay, I remembered to get those cards I told you guys about. And it's the Solabusca. The Solabusca Tarot. I'll show you the cups. The Queen of Cups has a really cool chalice, is holding a really cool chalice, and sometimes we see that, but this particular deck, it's just filled with it, and they're just incredible. So I'll show you that before we end today. I'll show that to you. But anyway, we're talking the Wheel of Fortune, new beginnings. The wheel turns. You never know. You know, you're going to keep going, and you're going to keep going, and you're going to keep going, and eventually something's got to happen, right? But what we have here, so we're bound up in our perceptions. We need to turn our back to the chaos of all of our thoughts, and we just need to shut down and see things from a very dispassionate place. And then perhaps with the Page of Swords, some new message has come in, some new information has come in, a new message, something that's going to enlighten us. Again, if this had a number, it's an 11, so that's the master number for illumination. So right away, that tells you that whatever has been going on in the Ace through the 10 of Swords, now we have something new to break through. Because there's a progression there in the small cards. And then you come to the court cards, and they just sort of blow everything out of the water, don't they? I mean, they need something to interact with, because it could be either the individual on the card or the qualities therein. But here we talk about cycles with the wheel, and it's essentially is talking about the law of prosperity, the synchronicity, completion, movement, success, flow, or actually more like ebb and flow. So in a sense, it could be almost like a moon card, you know, in terms of cycles and the turning of the wheel. Oh, that was the other thing, sulfur, salt, and mercury. You see the three guys, you see the Sphinx there, you see the snake, and I believe that's a griffon, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that guy is. There on the right. And I'm not talking about the four depictions in each corner that we, you know, that those are the elements. But this is sulfur, salt, and mercury. So if you're looking at Hindu, I've written this down. This also represents Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. And I've got here fire, energy, brightness, restlessness, which is sulfur. Salt is decay and inertia, darkness. And then Mercury is about intelligence, of course, as above, so below. So, in a sense, what you have here are the four elements surrounding into their manifested elements in the center, which is kind of cool. So, I guess what just came into my head is this too shall pass. So, whatever it is that we're going through, sometimes we can become overwhelmed, and maybe our thoughts are so scattered that we can't make sense of them. Too many conflicting thoughts. Maybe we can see things, if you're a Libra like I am, you can see things from every side humanly possible. Like I said, this is me in so many ways. You have no idea, and you start to think about things from a lot of different perspectives, and trying to find the best one, the one that makes the most sense, or the one that's the most compassionate, or the one that seems to try to respect everybody. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you actually have to do what's best for yourself, even if it's not best for other people. Um, you want to do it with a sense of dignity and compassion and all of that, but at some point you just have to make a decision. And I don't necessarily think that that's what's necessarily going on here, although for some people it might be. That's not what's going on for me in my life or anything. But sometimes when I just don't know which direction to go, eventually you just have to shut the world out, and you have to sit down, and you have to just, you can't let anything else come into any of you. Go into meditation, trance work, whatever you have to do. Call your energy back and dissolve all of the energetic connections you have with everything out there, and just bring everything back to your still point. I don't advocate blindfolding or binding yourself up. I don't advocate that, but you can bring yourself to a still point and ignore everything else that's going on around you, and just try to let higher self inform this whole thing. Let go of all of the things that you think and feel about it, and just let it settle out. It's like it's the whole idea of water seeking its own level. Let everything seek its own level. And it's funny how truth just sort of hits you. And it's like suddenly you know what to do, you know what the right perspective is. Sometimes we know all along, but we talk ourselves into all kinds of things. And sometimes the Eight of Swords is really about that, where we're trying to convince ourselves of all these different reasons of why we should do this or why we shouldn't do that. For some reason, my phone rang. Uh-oh, I need to answer this. Hold on. Hello? It is. Good. All right. We will do that. So Sunday the 28th after 2. All right, great. Thanks so much. You too. Bye-bye. My bees are here. Well, on the 28th after 2 p.m. Yay! I'm sorry. Normally I wouldn't answer my phone while I do this, but I was expecting that call, and I'm so happy because we were thinking they were going to email, and I've been panicked that I'm going to miss it. Totally panicked. But anyway, thank you so much for letting me do that. Um, Anyhow, let's get back to where we were. If you look at this in terms of numerology, if we don't look at the 11, we're not going to reduce it anyway. Um, What we have here is a 9. We've got an 8 and a 10. 10 reduces to 1, and so we have a 9, so we have some completion. So maybe we've completed the cycle on the wheel. Beltana is about to come about on the 1st, so it's almost here. So in a sense, we've completed a cycle. It depends on when you decide your year starts. You know, if you decide that it starts in January, or you decide that it starts the end of October, or conversely now, you know, for me, even though technically Samhain depicts the end of the year and the beginning of the new, I just relate to this time of year. I look at it because it's the season is coming, you know, the growing season is beginning. And so to me, in a very real sense, things wake up for me this time of year. So for me, the wheel is beginning again. Sewillow is the rune for today, the 16th rune of the Elder Futhark. And so you're looking at as above, so below energy as 7 energy, one of balance of dark and light. You can see it. You can see it. You can see the horizontal plane there in the middle. And as above, so below, above and below it. This is a fire element rune about our will and what we manifest. So I think what we have here, and this may have something to do with Monday. It could also have something to do with Tuesday, though. But if we're letting go, you know, there we had the 9 and the 10 of swords on Monday. And here we have the 8. So maybe in this process of letting go of things that no longer serve us, letting go of perception and illusion, maybe we're just not done with that yet. Maybe we're still on that road, on that path. And today with the Page of Swords, something's going to give us a little bit of information on that. Maybe shed some light on whatever our confusion has been, whether it's too much information coming at us, or this is something that's generated from within. Either way, it's difficult to deal with. It's difficult sometimes to make sense of the information that we have going on in our heads, you know, either coming from external sources or generated from within. I generally generate it from within, but that's just me because I am my own worst enemy. And I know that. So, but anyhow, it's interesting because if you look at 8, if that's 9, and then what did we say that was? That was a 7 energy. So 9, 10, 16, it's still a 7 energy, isn't it? So we're still it really does actually progress from yesterday as well. Because yesterday was about balanced energy exchange with others. And now I'm thinking that this is balanced energy exchange within. You know, maybe we've got to come to terms with our perceptions. Maybe our perceptions do get in the way of how we're able to relate in a harmonious way with others. Maybe we do see people as the other instead of the other side of self. And Sewillow is really, you know, in synchronicity here with the page, especially in terms of new information or clarity. Perhaps with the wheel, it's telling us that one cycle has come to an end in our lives, and now we're beginning a new one. Looking at the geomancy reading on the blog, as well as the monthly tarot reading, both were indicating that for this month, that this is a month for reevaluation and reassessment and taking a look at all of the illumination we gained from last year and letting it become something else. You know, in other words, what are we going to do with what we learned? If we know better, if we know something else, if we know something that's shedding light on something, in other words, once you know the truth about something, if you've been living under an illusion, no matter how you got there, either by someone who conned you or by a choice that you made to believe something. Maybe you did it without really even researching, or maybe you did, and all that, and instead you realize that you're like, you feel more like a lamb led to the slaughter, basically. Someone sold you a bill of goods with intention to deceive you, you know. So some of that, it's like you wake up and you realize, my God, you know. So part of that I liken to the Mueller report coming out on Friday or Thursday, when I guess it was Thursday. Even in its redacted version, we learned a lot of things, didn't we? Maybe we're ready to turn a new page. Maybe we're ready for the wheel to turn again. This time, though, we cannot proceed in darkness, and that's where Sewilla comes in. So we cannot proceed in darkness. We have to proceed in the light, irrespective of how painful it might be. Clearly what the woman is going through is a struggle here. It may be the last vestiges of perception that's just run amok and is not serving her. She's realized now, and she has to really focus and let go of all of it. Because maybe we live with these perceptions for a long, long time, and we don't understand that they've been damaging, or at least not conducive to anything positive happening. Maybe it's not really damaging, but maybe it's just not getting us anywhere either. So then the page comes in and we have some new information. We have a little bit of enlightenment to remind us, hey, don't forget, here's the truth you need to be looking at here. Don't turn away from it. You need the news, you need the message, you need the information so that you can move away from this. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say, and I'll bet you tomorrow when we do the last reading of the week, either we're going to come to a conclusion or it's just going to give us a little more information about all of this. I think that this is a progressive reading this week. I really do. And I think that it's true. In the midst of change, you need a lot of reminders, don't you? When you're trying to break a bad habit or you're trying to do something differently than you've ever done before, it's particularly like if you're in how you relate with one another. I know with my husband and myself, if we come upon a problem and we need to change how we relate to one another about it, it's difficult. We're old people, and you spend a lifetime being who you are and interacting and relating, and then all of a sudden, maybe something isn't working for you. Well, if you value the relationship, you try to change all of that, right? You take a step back, you say, well, okay, that's not working here, so let's try a different way. He has a tendency to go outside and not tell me where he's going. And it got to be really frustrating because I could never find him. He'd wear his earbuds or his muffs or whatever, his headphones. And he'd be listening to tunes. And so if I would call for him, we have 5 acres, I can't reach him. I don't know where he is. And it got to be frustrating. And so, this is not something he wants to give up because it's just what he does. It's his thing. He doesn't, it's like, well, it's a guy thing. They don't see it. They don't see it from the woman's perspective of, hey, I want to know where you are. Something could have happened to you. And he's like, nothing's happening to me, but he had to learn that he had to change how he did that because it was causing me great stress, and even though it was my choice to feel that way and to react that way, still there was a practical aspect to it. If I needed help, I needed to reach him. So now he makes sure that if he's listening, I can call him on the phone and it'll come through his headphones. And so he knows that I'm trying to reach him and he'll answer, right? So we found a way around the process. Unique, maybe, but it works for us. And so it was just one of those things, though, where we had to step outside the traditional way of trying to solve this problem because he wasn't giving it up. And it became an issue. It's like, well, I thought you said you weren't going to do that anymore. You can't hear me. And I'd be like, yeah, 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 yeah. And what, I don't know if I just called him one day. And I think it was just, I don't think it was something that we, in other words, brainstormed. I don't think so. I think if I remember right, I think I just called him one time. I was just so irritated. I just picked up the phone and I called him. And sure enough, he answered. It's like, oh, problem solved, right? So all I'm saying is that I think that we've all been going down a path for one reason or another, or many of us have, where maybe we've believed some illusion and we've just not been real thrilled to find that out. Unfortunately, we can tie it to what we learned last week, and so that's why I was sort of going on with that, because if we really are in this position where we've bought into a lie, well, we need to be angry about that. That's not our fault. you know uh, People deceive. A lot of people do. And for some people, I know so many people that do this. They live their lives that way. It's all about what they can get over on somebody else. And it's just, it's no wonder that if we're feeling like this woman in the Eight of Swords, it's like, yeah, enough's enough. You just get tired of it. Well, anyway, this is the Solabusca Tarot. And this is the one that I don't use, but it's very, very cool. Did you see that chalice? This is Policina. This is a beautiful card, though. But some of these older versions, these older type of decks, they're so ornate and they're just gorgeous. And I saw this one and I thought, oh my God, I have to have that. And then I discovered that I couldn't relate to it at all. This was the other one that was done for the Dieste couple. And you see the small cards are like this. So this is the Ten of Pentacles, basically. And here is Madame Dieste. With her squire behind her. This would be the card of adjustment in the Thoth Tarot. So you see there's a lot of different ways to look at tarot. But these cards are massive. And again, this was a deck that either was re-released or something. Well, it had to have been re-released because it had to have been done. Gosh, when was it done? In the 1400s? Is that when it was done? Something like that. But anyway, when I saw the name, and I remembered it from the ancestry, then I'm like, oh my God, am I related? And I didn't know for sure because it was there, but I couldn't. I hadn't expanded that section of the family yet at that point, and so I went to it and I found it and I started expanding. And I think, if I recall, I think they would be aunts and uncles. I don't think they're grandparents. I think they would be a great aunt or a great uncle so many times removed. So anyhow, my connection there. Anyhow, so all right, well, I guess that's it then. And so let's keep this in mind. I've written it down for I wrote down yesterday's and Monday's. I'm going to write down this one too so that we can take a look tomorrow and see if we progress into something else. But again, I really think that we're trying to struggle right now with coping with the loss of illusion and the letting go of nonsense that we're believing that just isn't true. And now we're having to reconfigure everything, aren't we? We thought one thing and now or maybe we knew and it was just reinforced. I don't know. But we're having to struggle with the emotions surrounding it, and it's not fun. Trying to come back into balance with people that we see as the enemy, that's a tough thing. But I think that that's the energy of what's going on here right now. And, or at least if not seen as an enemy, seen as somebody that thinks so differently that we're just on opposite sides of the the divide here. Uh, and the fact is it's an illusion, all of it. There really is no separation. We've just made it such. And so we can do something else. We can choose another way. We can choose to reject the illusion that we've been expected to buy over the last few years. And we can just come back to one another, come back to the family, essentially, the family aspect of who we are, the greater aspect of self, the collective consciousness of which we're all a part. So I'm hoping tomorrow, we'll either maybe even get a little more clarity, or maybe we'll even get sort of an outcome, or maybe the end of a stage to where we at least know where we're going, in what direction this is going to go. But I don't know. We could still be in. It takes a while to undo perception. It takes a while, maybe more than a week, even with the tarot's help. So I don't know. But this is going to be some work that needs to get done, isn't it? Some inner work that we all need to do for whatever reason, either the greater reason that we're all experiencing together in our country, or if there's just some internal things going on in our lives. But clearly we're struggling with perception, and we need to figure it out. So anyhow, I guess that's it then. I will see you tomorrow, and thanks again for coming by. Check out the blog. I did do the moon magic for Capricorn. That's up. I did that yesterday. So that's up on the blog at imsteppingaside.com. So check that out if you're interested. And I guess that's it. So yeah. So be good to yourself. Be good to one another. We'll see you tomorrow. Blessed be.